But yeah, I want to talk about softball again because
Yeah, I
I
think
know
we
that
gotta.
we were alluding to it just a couple minutes ago. But yeah, Ken, what a week! A double no hitter on Wednesday that I didn't get
Unbelievable.
to see because Dawn Bodrug selfishly throws her no hitters while I have class. It's been a good year when I've missed three no hitters, yet I've still seen a no hitter.
Exactly. This one
Yeah,
might have been our worst one statistically.
I know. Well, was
there's no
it?
such thing as a bad no hitter.
No, no. There's no such. I don't think this
Least
was her
dominant
quote unquote
or
worst
less
one.
dominant, maybe fewer strikeouts or something like that. But
Yeah, that's what I'm
interestingly
saying though.
enough, if you go just for today, Dawn Bodrick actually got knocked out of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know, but luckily, I mean, you got Ashton, right? It's
Yeah,
Yes.
thank God that Megan Bryan runs that show because I mean, I say it every week now, who is better at this whole roster construction thing than her? I mean, you lose Bodrig, you're like, uh-oh. But no, that's all right. We got Ashton Malaise to figure it out. It's such an embarrassment of riches this softball team has in every facet of the game. Just
Yeah, in the
credit to
American,
them.
absolutely. I think, and it's been like this the past couple years. I think roster wise, looking at it wholly, they have, I think, the best, and they have had the best constructed roster. Last year UMBC won the whole thing. I thought they had the best player in Coppersmith, but I think as a team, the past few seasons it's been Stony Brook, and I think that's going to carry over it in the CAA, with the exception of UNC Williamson, because Stony Brook as a whole has been so dominant. And alluding to that game today, right? Bodrug's knocked out. Milas takes over, does a good job. The offense steps up, and they
Did a
win that
great
game eight
job.
seven.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt you.
go ahead. Yeah,
yeah.
the
No,
offense
just she did
stepped
it.
up.
She did a great job. I mean, it was better than good. 2 2/3 scoreless, only one hit, two strikeouts, no walks, 29 pitches too. Got in and out in a hurry. She's had an up and down year. I mean, the stats are pretty good. Nobody's discrediting Ashton, but
I agree.
she's learning, right? I think her batting average against is a little high, but today, I mean, she looked like Shelby Denman or Dawn Bodrick,
Yeah,
whichever
and that's the
one
thing,
you want
right?
to
Because it
compare her to.
takes, with the exception of the ball drug, it takes a bit of an adjustment going from NJCA to to community college to D1 competition. And as the start of the season, it wasn't too good. Albany yesterday, she threw 3 innings, gave up a run and a hit. It was a lot better than her start, where she went the full game, gave up 8 hits against Manhattan. But
Yeah,
today was really, as you said, that statement game. Only gave up 1 hit, 29 pitches, as you said. Otherwise, she blanked Albany to wrap up the game. I don't know if she gets the save, but I know she was able to.
she got the
She got
win.
the win. There you go, even better. Yeah, she got the win in that one, taking over Bodrug. And again, today's game, I think, is a great example, as we said, of that roster, because that one more so than the other games. Even the no hitter felt like a game where it was like everyone on the team came together to get that win.
Exactly, right? Well, it's all you need all nine, or I guess in college it's all 10 because you have a DH usually. Softball they call it the DP, designated player. But regardless, yeah, what you got to love about this softball team is every time we see them play, it's a sign of things to come. They're probably the youngest team on campus, at least for this academic year.
Maybe tennis more, but yeah, you're right.
Right. But every single one of them are coming back with the exception of Corinne Badger. That's a bad loss. I'm not saying, oh, I can't wait to get rid of them, but Corinne Badger, Dawn Bodrig, Shelby Denman, and Nicole McCarville. Now we've missed Nicole. Nicole tore her ACL earlier in the year, so she's been out for a while, and they've done well without her. No disrespect to her, but they've done well without her. I think we've officially seen a year early that we're ready we've got her place supplanted for the future. And then of course Corinne Badger, she'll be a bad loss, but Dawn and Shelby, they're going to be bad losses. Shelby does have a year of academic eligibility to come back, but I don't think she's going to come back. The growing consensus belief is that she'll be walking when she gets her degree. But regardless, anyway, every time we see them play, it's a sign of things to come. It's what we're going to see next year. Alicia Orozco, Kira McFarland, Alyssa Costello, Ashley Jacobson. These girls are all sophomores and freshmen, right? Just about all of them.
Yeah.
The only juniors in the lineup, I think Shauna Nuss is she's a junior, but she's not a regular starter. right? And she's really she's the oldest one there. Lindsay Osmer is a senior, I believe, but she's coming back, right? She wasn't honored on senior day, which was yesterday. So I think that means she's definitely coming back.
Interestingly enough, men's lacrosse did honor the seniors whether they're coming back or not. And seniors and grads together. But, yeah, I guess the other thing about it is that you don't have to make your decision yet if you are a senior, if you want to come back as a grad. And, of course, some cases decisions made for you, if you're wanted back. But in most cases, they did yesterday with men's lacrosse, they did honor everybody who was either a senior or a grad.
Right. And, unfortunately for the softball team, on senior day, they got routed. Wait, hold on. Senior day was yesterday, right? Or was it today?
Well, it's senior weekend, really, when you think about it. Because
they did a doubleheader yesterday.
The very last game is often considered senior day. But, it's a 3-game series, so they honored the seniors yesterday. And, and of course, there were still some, people celebrating the seniors and stuff like that. But the real ceremony happened yesterday, although today was kind of like de facto senior day because it is the last home game they will play. Sure. And that they will play in the America East because they still have 2 more home games left to play, a midweek doubleheader coming up against UMass. So they still have a couple of home games left. They could have done it then. But they decided to use this weekend to get more people here, and that's I guess it works out for them.
Right. And again, it's just going to be 2 more chances for us to look at our future. These girls are all going to be back next year, and a lot of them the year after that. And you got to love every single thing that these girls have done. Barely any of them are struggling. Let's check the batting averages. I should have had them out I should have already had them out, but let's see. They got 3 girls hitting over 300. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players hitting over 250. They have 4 players hitting over 300. They have 5 players hitting over 270. That team is loaded for the next couple of years offensively.
I was going to say, so far, 44 games, 7 out of your 9 starters have 25 hits this season. Yeah. It's a great sign because, that offense is rocking.
Yeah, it's just, again, what are they going to do with the pitching? Ashton Malace is going to be back next year. And the odds are, with the way that we've seen Megan Bryant develop players, Ashton Malace is going to be a stud for us. Right now she's got a 2.6 ERA, which is pretty good. It's smaller sample size, 37 2/3 innings. That's not a lot, but we'll definitely see her do better. But outside of Ashton, who are we going to see? Right. Then again, who am I to doubt Megan Bryant?
We're going to the recruiting stage. Yeah, potentially. And we'll probably see another junior transfer is my assumption. And maybe another freshman incoming as well. Right. The pitching for the team, as we said, is phenomenal. I just want to give the numbers on the pitching side. Okay, this is nationally. They ranked 9th with 74 earned runs given up. They only gave up, I think, 4 or 5 earned runs this week, which is incredible. Right. They ranked 10th with 365 strikeouts among the 3 pitchers, and 15th nationally with an ERA of 1.88. We said it a couple times the past few weeks. Jacob deGrom numbers. This pitching staff is phenomenal. Mike.
That's right, and these are after a couple of bad outings. Shelby had a 1.93 ERA as the 2 starter before her start on Saturday. Then she got shelled and it ballooned to 2.51, but I'll take 2.51. Right. That's really good too. And then Dawn was at 1.51 and it ballooned to 1.84 today. I'll take 1.84. That's pretty good, right? Can we all agree that 1.84 is kind of good? It's all right. Yeah. How about 279 strikeouts? Is that okay? I think that's pretty good. That's what Dawn Bodrug boasts right now. What opponents are hitting 206 against the Seawolves pitchers this year.
Yeah, and it's going to be exciting too, except for what's coming up in the week. Let's pull the schedule here. Yeah, just a lot of exciting games. Obviously, going to wrap up their America East contest against UMass Lowell, which is going to be a fun one. Team on the rise there in softball. But for UMass too, on Wednesday, a doubleheader that will be aired on WUSB 107.3 FM. That's going to be a fun one because UMass is another team that has, I would argue, pretty good offense. Sure, they got a couple hitters hitting above 300, but they know how to get on base and get on base a lot. 6, 7 of their hitters as well slugging above 300. About 5 or so have an on base percentage above 400. So this is a team that is pretty good. They have 30 hit by pitches. They're a team that's pretty good at, at getting hit. They draw walks pretty well as well, over 100 so far in the season. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting. It's going to be a fun series, I think, seeing two teams where their strengths are on the opposite side, as compared to Wednesday, where your strength was ace versus ace.
For sure. Yeah, and we've buried the lead, but the important thing about taking 2 out of 3 from Albany was that they extended their lead in the conference. I'm pretty sure Stony Brook now is the softball team has a 2-game lead over Albany for first place in the America East. Maybe Albany fell to third this weekend because UMBC was breathing down their neck too. But the girls now have a multi-game lead, right? Do they not?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So, I mean, it's going to be a really important final series against UMass Lowell. Obviously, UMass, we're going to want to see them win because we're biased and we're Stony Brook people. But,
right.
We're going to want to see them beat UMass on Wednesday. But the most important thing that they get done is that they take care of business against UMass Lowell next weekend. Because if they can do that, hey, man, they win the regular season championship. It's a big deal.
Well, here's an interesting thing here because I'm looking at the America East standings now. Stony Brook has played 13 games and they're 9-4, which gives them the lead on percentage points. But UMBC is right behind them at 10-5, Albany at 10-6, and Lowell is 8-6. And none of these teams are slouches. But
no,
nope.
So UMass Lowell is definitely not a slouch. Taking 2 out of 3 there. Now, what do they need necessarily to clinch? That's the big question here. Because
do we have a magic number?
Yeah, because you got UMBC at Binghamton this weekend, and that means they've got 3 more games to play.
Yeah,
Albany,
it's your de facto 1 versus 5 for the playoffs.
Albany has 1 game left on the America East schedule. They're at Binghamton for 1 game on Wednesday. No, May 4th. That'd be Wednesday. And then they've got 2 more at Iona to finish out their regular season schedule, and which is an oddity in and of itself. Okay, Lowell, I'm seeing if there are any games in between, like makeups or anything like that. Okay, there are not, but UMBC just took 2 out of 3 from them this past weekend. And, yeah, the remaining games they have on their schedule, there are no non-conference games left. All they have is the 3-game series with us next weekend at home for them.
Yeah, for the playoffs for softball, how it works, it's actually the top 6 seeds make to the playoffs. Stony Brook's obviously ineligible, so everyone's going to be competing. Even 2 and 13 Hartford.
But the most important thing here
who's hosting
is that UMBC and Albany are neck and neck for home field.
Yes.
Otherwise, if Stony Brook won the regular season championship, it would be at Stony Brook, obviously.
Right.
But now, but here's the great thing is that, yes, and we wanted to see that happen with men's lacrosse yesterday, and we'll get into that. But the important thing here is that, it should be the goal of every Stony Brook team to finish first, just to stick it to the rest of the league, saying that your second-place team is going to be your top seed. Because we're the top seed.
And we're seeing it in women's lacrosse as well. And for Stony Brook, as you said, even they're ineligible right now. They're still racking up points in the America East Commissioner's Cup, even though they can't get any playoff points. And they're also, as I said, being kind of that barrier to a team like UMass Lowell, who is also trying to host the games. And honestly, I don't see it happening. I don't see them sweeping Stony Brook. This team's look too good, I think, to get swept by the 4th best team in the conference.
Yeah, and right now, the 4 for the women's lacrosse, that's already set because Albany is going to get home field with a 5-1 record, and guess who the loss came against? And Stony Brook, but we'll get again. We'll save it for later because we do have a lot to talk about with women's lacrosse because their season is done for now, but. The problem is that all the conference tournaments are going on. This is championship week for lacrosse, both men and women, and they have to sit and wait to see how things shake out. First of all, if Stony Brook, of course, indeed gets an at-large bid, which seems likely, there's nothing left for them to do. The season is done. So, could they go down? only if other people move up. And that is something we do have to look at. While you guys are talking, I'm going to see what everybody did this weekend, because if there have been some upsets, some people may be moving down, and the Seawolves can move up.
Well, I'll just say on the topic of women's lacrosse, unless Mike, you got anything to add for softball.
No, I guess I could just make one final point on softball. So, I mean, if you look at their win percentage, they average a 2 out of 3. They average taking like 2 out of 3. Exactly, right, like the Mets.
Also, like the Mets, they got pretty good pitching and no hitter.
Right. Well, hey, we got a whole another hour to talk about that. But
I will.
but anyway, they average a 2 out of 3. So if they, and I don't mean to put pressure on them, but I'm going to because I think they can handle it. If they don't handle business against UMass Lowell, if they don't take 2 out of 3 or sweep, it really will be a massive disappointment in my eyes, because this is such an opportunity to stick a middle finger back to the America East on their way out. I mean, already we knew this was going to happen, but the women's lacrosse team won the America East regular season. So that's one. If we could get 2 teams, you'd hope for 3. You'd actually hope for all of them. You'd hope men's lacrosse and baseball do it too. But
track, obviously,
it's tough. It's Vermont has a very good men's lacrosse team. They went undefeated in conference. So I think what Stony Brook men's lacrosse went 5-1. So we'll take that. And Maine baseball has won 12 in a row or 13 in a row. So we're probably not going to get that one either. But if we can get all first and second place finishes, that would be the perfect way. Not perfect. That would be a great way to end our America East tenure. Yeah. Just, flip middle fingers in from every direction. And I really want to see the softball team get the job done.
Stony Brook as a whole, all their programs, obviously with that Commissioner's Cup win the past couple seasons, they've shown and they've proven that they are the best program and were the best program in America East past couple years. And obviously them not making playoffs, they're not gonna be able to three-peat. But as you said, getting those regular season titles are big, just to kind of show they're besides leaving with their heads up high, they're still better than the majority of these programs across all sports.
No, yeah, and even if they're not better today, they're better historically. Yeah. Like, you'd be stupid to think someone else has a better baseball program.
I was like, women's lacrosse.
You'd be stupid to think, anybody has a better men's lacrosse program. Before this year, I'm pretty sure we made the playoffs each of the last 10 years.
Yeah, I would argue for men's lacrosse, Albany, just because they were ranked, and it was with Thompson especially, and Matt will talk more about it. When they were the top ranked team a few years ago, and just that consistency there, that was big. Stony Brook, they were really dominant.
All right, well, whatever.
But I was say outside of that, you're right with baseball and softball. They've been so consistent past few seasons to where even if they're not winning championships necessarily, which both teams have had in the past decade, they've still been able to at least make the finals and beat virtually every other team besides the champion during the season. And we're going to potentially see that again with UMass Lowell. The team, they have one top 15 hitter in Becca Valiancourt. She's hitting 317 though, which is pretty good. But, pitching wise, the matchup's going to be Riley White versus Dawn Bodrug. And sure, White has better ERA at 177, but
but that's after a blow up start. It's not like they got the better pitcher. And I mean, no disrespect to her, but, you're not taking anyone over Dawn Bodrug in a must win
exactly
game
for Bodrug. It's really tough to see her weaknesses. For White, batters are still hitting above 215 against her, and she's given up 15 hit by pitches already this season. So which actually leads the league among starters. So that's something that works Stony Brook's favor. Where, as we saw on Wednesday, they don't need the hits necessarily to score. They just
need the right fielder to toss the ball into left field. But isn't it funny how this White girl is so good that you had to point to her 215 batting average against being like White. A potential, like 215 is so low, but it's no 166.
Exactly. And White's a tremendous pitcher, obviously. And I think I'll say that about in softball in the American East, there's I think a lot of great pitching. I think more so than definitely when I started covering them, as a freshman back 2017, where there were really one or two really good pitchers. I would say back then. Now, Coppersmith, Kia Matter has a .95 ERA. White, as I said, Bodrug, Denman, those 6 women, those 6 athletes, they've done a tremendous job, I think, all season.
Yeah, right. It's the complete opposite of baseball, which is
Oh my gosh,
such an offensive league. It's ugly almost.
And Stony Brook especially, the pitching, it's a work in progress for sure, but
right.
Wow.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you have a huge graduating class and a huge incoming class,
Yeah.
and your sophomore class for freshmen last year not pitching because the graduating class had all the pitchers. That's just how the dominoes fell for Stony Brook. But you know what? You want to talk about the baseball team? Was that a good segue or not?
It's a good segue. They had an interesting week, right?
I think it's good timing. Yeah, sure.
Sure. So, on that subject, yes, Ken,
especially,
you're right.
by the way, we are in the top of the 9th inning, and Philly
down
is down to its last out. And but of course, the Alec Bohm got hit by a pitch. So they do have a runner on base, and defensive indifference even advanced to second. But they're leading 10-4.
Yeah, and our guy is out in left field, by the way, Travis Jankowski. So maybe he could make the catch in the game. Let's see. Well, we'll talk. Matt, let us know. Let us know how it goes.
Yeah, he came in as a pinch runner
for Jeff McNeil after he got his 4th hit of the night.
Yeah.
Anyways,
blowouts are actually been a common theme. This is for Stony Brook baseball, where
Oh,
lost 9-2.
I know.
Lose Friday 10-2, win Saturday 13-7.
Right, and every time they win a game steadily, I almost get disappointed now. Because I'm so they never just barely win or barely lose. I mean, sure, Binghamton, they didn't exactly blow Stony Brook out when they took 2 out of 3, and obviously the one game Albany won was not a blowout, but it's pretty boom or bust.
Yes.
Having said that, they are second place in the conference by 2 games. Right, they're 14-7 in conference, and I mean, you got to be pleased with what you've seen from Stony Brook baseball this year, given the fact that they've lost so many important pieces. Again,
in that sense, true, absolutely.
I was using this phrase last week that they're in a half rebuild, half win now season, and
it's like
obviously,
a retool. Yeah,
right,
that's on hockey.
Exactly, and. You have so many good hitters, right? The sexy 6, I called them last week. So obviously you're always going to be in contention to win the conference when you got those 6 guys.
Well,
but
there's another little thing too, is that the team that's ahead of them, which of course is the University of Maine, they've lost 3 games in conference all year. 2 of those to the Seawolves. The other one to NJIT.
Mm-hmm. Right, and they haven't lost since that Jersey Tech game. So. Right. So even the non-conference games, what are they now on a 13-game winning streak? I checked yesterday and it was 12. So I only assumed that they won today.
They did 9-8.
9-8
over Hartford.
There you go. All right.
A bit of a fight, but
Maine, they just a tremendous batting. They're the only team in the conference hitting above 300. They're 329. Obviously, really good at getting hits and home run wise, especially. They lead the conference with 30. They got some sluggers, man.
Right. I mean, it's almost like looking at last year's Seawolves, and again, with the bats you have, you're going to be in contention to win the conference this year. With the arms that you're trying to develop, you're going to be allowing a lot of runs. It's going to be tough to win every game. It's going to be tough to go 15-1, like they did last year in those first couple series. But regardless, you got to be happy with what they've done so far. They've played 7 series in conference. They've won 6 of them. They are 6-1 on Sundays, which is game 3. It's
big too. 'Cause a lot of those games are rubber games.
Right. Yeah. Most of them have been rubber games. And, a lot of them have been the last time they're ever going to face them. UMass Lowell, Albany, Maine, and Hartford.
Maybe not
as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Well, there have been rumors too that they may also be trying to move to the C.
I did hear that. I don't think Albany Athletics is ready, but whatever. I would love to keep playing them. That's a couple
Stony Brook
will
love to, in one sense that after what happened this season, definitely some bad blood there.
Yeah, right. Well, you know what? My 20th birthday this year, I got to go watch the men's basketball team destroy Albany 66-50 in a must-win game for Albany basketball. So,
by the way,
they
now
never
that you bring
disappoint
up
against
Albany, Okay, we of course, yes, they played the softball played Albany this weekend, and Albany is still a thorn in our side, at least for the time being. But you're gonna love this. The reason why we're doing this broadcast from Citi Field is because I came from Connecticut I was doing a semi-pro game for the basketball league on video, the Connecticut Cobras versus the Albany Patroons. You're going to love who's coaching the Albany Patroons.
Killings.
Will Brown.
Wow.
Okay.
That's
he left Albany last year.
Yeah, last year, yeah.
Yeah, and he has since taken over as coach and general manager. It's not really a semi-pro league. It's actually a pro league, kind of like a fly-by-night like the old CBA used to be. But
you're getting Will Brown. It's definitely more legit than other leagues.
Yeah, Will Brown. But now the Connecticut Cobras are as fly-by-night as you can get. I mean, all these guys come from Division III schools, and all the Albany guys come from D1 schools. And not to mention the fact they played internationally professional. So Will Brown put together a hell of a lineup. And the Patroons are at the top of the division in their league. Right. But actually, they ended up only winning the game by 2. But that got exciting. But Will Brown, I'm like, oh, my God. This guy's going to be a thorn in my side forever. I can't escape him.
Yep. I mean, Stony Brook won't either. They're still playing with football.
5 championships.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Haven't really seen that same success in baseball. As we were talking about, really, it's been Stony Brook and Maine the past few seasons.
Right, and Binghamton.
Binghamton as well, yeah.
I mean, Stony Brook baseball has won over 2/3 of their games against well, not over 2/3, but almost 2/3 of their games against Albany. And I'm pretty sure most of our programs, most of our athletic teams have all handled Albany pretty well.
Feels the way the past few years, yeah. But yeah, just going back to the main Stony Brook series.
Yes.
We talk more about the NJIT Stony Brook series that just happened.
Yeah.
Like you said, a lot of bad blood from last year is still there. Really, score-wise, it wasn't really close. Today's game was the closest. Stony Brook winning 6-3. But for the Seawolves, it really took that offense, waking up and just being active to get them those victories, especially today in the 7th inning where it was tied at 2, I believe, or tied at 3.
Yep.
And it was tied at 2, and they turned it into a 4-run advantage and were able to pull away.
Yeah. The aforementioned Sexy Six, they were dominated game 1. Let's get that out of the way. I mean, Ryan Fisher for Jersey Tech, we called this an offensive league. That's how we segued to this topic in the first place. But Ryan Fisher, who's having just a really good year, 3.76 ERA. He pitched the best game of his career against Stony Brook on Friday night. Yeah. 2 runs, 6 hits, 14 strikeouts, a career high, no walks in a complete game. All 9 innings. They destroyed Stony Brook 10-2. They were never even in it, really. I think it was 7-0 before anybody had a chance to pass gas. I mean,
that was by the 4th inning, by the way.
Yeah, no, it was over before it started. Jersey Tech, it really looked like they came out guns a-blazing. They were ready to continue to stick it to Stony Brook. Remember, last year, Jersey Tech, Stony Brook comes in winners of 15 of their last 16 games, and then Jersey Tech takes 3 or 4 from them. And then Jersey Tech comes to Stony Brook a couple weeks later and splits with them. And then, of course, we know how the season ended. Stony Brook's beating them 1-0 in the 3rd inning. The skies open up. Game gets canceled. Jersey Tech gets an automatic championship victory.
Yeah.
Dog piles in the parking lot.
Yeah.
If that even really did happen. And so...
Oh, it did.
Yeah. So there's a lot of bad blood, right? And, of course, we were privy to the fight that happened.
In the parking lot, I'm thinking about the other kind of dog piles.
Right.
But...
yeah, right. There was a fight in the parking lot, too, after the Mother's Day game last year. So there's no love lost between these two teams. And after game 1, it really looked like the Seawolves might have been in for a pounding. But nope. The next day, they returned the favor, right? It's 10-0 before – what was it?
6th inning.
10-0 by the 6th inning. Right. It was a blowout. Brandon Lashley, who – I mean, he had an ugly start, but 5 scoreless innings, right? He got his job done. He walked 6 in 5 innings. That's awful, but no runs. That at the end of the day, it's are you allowing runs, yes or no? If you're not going to allow any runs in 5 innings, he had a good start.
He induced a lot of fly balls as well. So, it looked like it could have been home runs, but no, they stayed in the ballpark.
Right, yeah. And And again, the offense, I mean, led by Evan Giordano, who we haven't really mentioned his name a whole lot this year. And that's because last year he started the season hitting 383 by the midway point. He was tearing the cover off the ball. But this year, he has been so steady and so consistent for them. He's once again, he's their best hitter, batting 326 with a 437 on base and a 560 slugging percentage. On Saturday, he went 4 for 6 with 4 extra base hits, 3 doubles, which is a career high, and a home run. That home run matched his home run total from a year ago. Room to spare. 31 RBIs. He's as productive as they get. He just had an unreal game that day. And really so did everyone else around him. Shane Paradine, Brown Airing, Evan Fox went back-to-back with him. They both homered consecutively in the 6th inning. And this is going to be in my next article if they don't cut it. And the Statesman loves cutting the interesting stuff I put in my articles. So Stony Brook has gone back-to-back 3 times this year, back-to-back home runs 3 times. Evan Giordano has been part of it all 3 times.
Wow.
This was the first time he started it, though. Of course, we remember UMass Lowell, game 2 of that series. They're down by 1 in the 10th inning. Giordano hits a home run to tie it to left center. Cole Durkin, next batter, hits a walk-off home run to the same spot in left center. Day after that, Matt Brown Airing hits an opposite field 2-run homer to right center field. And then Evan Giordano on the next pitch hits a game-tying home run. And then Saturday, of course, Giordano and Fox going back-to-back. So, yeah, he's been right in the middle of it all season long, playing a better third base this year than he did last year. We're happy to have him. He's one of those guys that you're glad you don't have to pitch against. Jared Milch was on the show and he said it best. I asked him, were there any hitters that you just could not get out in your Stony Brook career? And he said, yeah, Evan Giordano. So thank God that we've got him. And thank God we've got the other guys too. Shane Paradine. What a year he's having. Matt Brown Airing, Evan Fox, Stanton Luthner, Brett Paulson, the Sexy Six, right? I hate calling them that, but it's alliteration.
You say it, I think, every time you bring up.
Yeah.
One of the guys.
They both start with an S. That's, I'll try to think of something better.
To make a catch.
Yeah. Right.
And these NIL deals, they may make it a shirt and sell it.
Yeah.
So who knows?
God, I hope. I'd be so embarrassed. But
yeah,
and
as you said, just Giordano, as you said, and I love throwing Paradigm too. The season they're having in conference play alone, Evans is a few points under 400 in the batting average department. One of the best hitters for sure. Paradigm actually has 1 more hit in conference play than him.
And he leads the team in hits.
Yeah, exactly.
53.
But
so
I would say to me, their strengths is driving in runners. When there's a guy on second, guy on third, with Paradigm or Giordano at bat, they're coming home more often than not.
Absolutely. And that's the Matt Sank team. They're so productive. That's it. They're fundamentally sound. Runner on third, less than 2 outs, they drive the run in. They do it with sac flies. They do it with base hits to the opposite field. They do it with squeeze bunts. They always get the job done, So when you look at these RBI totals compared to the home runs, like there's no guys where it's like 8 home runs to 16 RBIs.
It's not like softball, right? Badger is 14 home runs.
Well, yeah, but she has 41 RBIs with 14 home runs. Yeah. That's really good too.
It's phenomenal.
You want your RBI total to be about 3 times the amount as your home run total. Otherwise, it means that you're too dependent on the home run ball. Well, just check these out, right? Giordano, 7 homers, 31 RBIs. Paradigm, 26 RBIs on 4 homers. Brown Airing, 35 RBIs on 6 homers. Luthner, 30 RBIs on 6 homers. Evan Fox, mostly a leadoff hitter this year, 23 RBIs, 5 home runs. These guys get the job done without the long ball. They can hit the long ball. I've seen them all hit a tank at one point or another, but they're really just good hitters. They're not just good power hitters. They're good hitters in general. And then the 7th guy, who I mentioned last week, he was coming around. He had another good series this weekend with 3 for 10, had a couple of doubles. It's Ryan Michelli. He's a catcher, sophomore catcher from Sachem East. He's been DHing this year. Obviously, there's no room to catch when Shane Paradine's your catcher. And they also like the freshman Chris Leone, who's been pretty impressive as the backup catcher. So in order to get Michelli out there, you got to DH him. And guess what, man? He's big, he's strong like bull, and he's productive. He's productive. Hits the ball in the gap, hits the ball in the air, hits the ball over the wall, drives and runs. He's good for them, man. He's good for them. I'm telling you, they finally figured out that 7th spot.
Yeah, I mean, I thought
I'm glad you brought that up because your 7, 8, and 9s, your 7, 8, and 9 hitters are, you talk about the sexy 6, but what about, don't call them the tragic 3 because they set the table for the guys at the top like Giordano and Fox.
That's true. Yeah, but it's been such a tough year for Cole Durkin, who I love Cole Durkin. I really don't want to say anything bad about him, and he's an outstanding outfielder. I mean, what a move he has made to center field. He's been outstanding out there. He's made some absurd catches. He's fast. He brings power.
No errors. Yeah. His fielding percentage is at 100, man.
Fielding percentage doesn't really tell the whole story. But right. I mean, if you're just watching him play, it's fun watching Cole Durkin play. I would bring my son, if I had one, to a ballpark just to watch Cole Durkin play center field. He's that good. He's a good power hitter. Mistakes, yeah. And he's a good base runner, but he's a big strikeout guy, and it's been tough for him. Ever since that quick start to the season, the team had a bout of the flu mid-season, and he caught it pretty bad. He hasn't really been the same since. But
this is not COVID related, obviously. Right?
No, it's not COVID related, but it's been a tough year at the plate for Cole. So if he could turn it around, that would be nice. I don't know what his situation is, if he wants to come back for a 5th year or not. But, if this is going to be it, I want to see Cole Durkin break out over these last 2 weeks for sure. He's very valuable to this team when he's on his game. But yeah, I mean, that's really all we got for the offense. Now, the way this whole thing started is we were going to talk about the pitching, right? And we've got to highlight Colton Book. It's time we have a discussion about Colton Book. He's a freshman. Freshmen usually don't see the field in D1, not in baseball at least. And obviously he's been thrown into the fire pretty much out of necessity. Again, Milch, Turcotte, Herman graduated. DeGennaro hurt out for the year. That's 4 starting pitchers you're down. Someone's got to step up. Well, Colton Book has done just that. And he's pitched 9 games overall, 5 in relief, 4 as a starter, but he's done bulk work in all 9 games, so he gives them a lot of length.
Yes.
He's been outstanding, man. I mean, the whip is high. 156 is not a good whip. Okay, 285 batting average against, that's pretty high. But that will get lower. It has gotten lower as the season's gone on. It will continue to get lower as his career goes on. He strands runners. He's very tough. He's mentally tough. He's clutch. 3.86 ERA. Again, 3.86 ERA is decent at the major league level, but in the America East, 3.86 ERA probably has him in the top 10. He's not too far behind Ryan Fisher. And of course, there's the added bonus of he's a lefty, right? So when you have an effective lefty, that's the biggest weapon any coach could ask for.
Actually, guys, forget about the 3.86 ERA. In conference, it's 2.30.
Yes. That's number one. That's number 1 in the conference.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Well, yeah.
Ryan Fisher, ironically enough.
Yeah, you want to know why? Because Brendan Patterman had a blow-up outing on Saturday. He was the one leading the league.
He dropped to 4 though at 3.8.
Yeah. He and he's 3.35 overall in the year, and he's having a great year too. So we're not here to poo-poo Brendan Patterman. You're allowed to have a bad game. Either way, they won. It was non-consequential. Right. It just hurts his stat line. But
of course, anytime a reliever has a bad inning, his ERA goes. Psh.
Oh yeah. No, you can't afford to have a good year as a reliever because your first bad game just ruins everything. But yeah, so they've definitely found a wing in Colton Book. I imagine. I don't know what the health of Quinlan Montgomery is. I don't know what the injury was. I know Sank said his forearm was tight. I don't know what the extent of that injury is. I don't know if it's a strain or a tear or he's fine. But I can't help but imagine Colton Book will be in the rotation for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. And we didn't see him. We haven't seen him the past couple weeks, Montgomery. So you'd imagine, Book's probably going to continue playing a big part, especially not only because he's been in, I think, every conference series so far, but his past few starts, he's gone 6 1/3, 5 innings, 6 innings. And in that, he's been able to throw almost the same amount of strikeouts as he has in terms of hits surrender. Obviously, 5 strikeouts, gave up 8 hits against Binghamton, 4 strikeouts, 4 hits allowed against UMBC, 6 strikeouts yesterday, gave up 7, actually today rather, gave up 7 hits versus NGIT. But the runs, as you said, the earned runs are low. Only gave up 4 combined, 2 apiece in those 3 starts. So, he's, as you said, he's someone who's really good at stranding runners. I'd say he's probably the best strikeout pitcher in terms of the starting core there.
Well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, that's not really something that I think Sank cares too much about. I think he just wants them to eat innings right now.
Oh, yeah.
He wants them to get through the year. But again, as we said last week, these last couple of weeks are going to be really big for some of the pitchers who we've highlighted. Kyle Johnson had a great year last year. He was their best relief pitcher. He's been awful this year, and it got worse this weekend. His ERA currently is 8.38 in 29 innings overall, and
that was a big shock, I think, to me this season.
It really is. No, it really is a shock to me. And he's in a 5-year program, so he'll be back next year. It's not like he's ending on a bad note, but these last couple of weeks, he can't salvage a good season now. It's too late for him to have an ERA below 4 or anything like that. But what he can do is he can give himself positive momentum going into next year. He can have a good couple outings to end the season. He'll probably pitch against Hofstra this Wednesday. If he can have a couple of good outings towards the end of the season, a couple good outings in a row, that would be really nice to see. Devin Sharkey too. Andrew Ledbetter too. Again, Ledbetter, former catcher, dude throws like 95 miles per hour, man.
Crazy.
He's an effortless 95, but he can't throw strikes. Opponents hit 203 against him, but he has more walks than innings pitched.
Right.
So these guys, these relievers who are not named Brendan Patterman or Colton Book or Josh O'Neill, who has earned his spot as well, these guys who are not necessarily having good years, it's going to be a really big couple of final weeks for them. Because
here's what's wild about Ledbetter, though. Okay,
go for it.
His last outing was against UMBC last weekend. Okay, goes 2 innings, gives up 4 runs on 4 hits. He, in a game where the Seawolves basically got blown out against Manhattan, he throws a scoreless inning. And
1 2/3 for us.
Yeah, 1
right?
2/3. There was a scoreless 1 2/3 in a game where they gave up 17 runs. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing, this is what I've gotten in the habit of doing. I mentioned it before, is I start to look at relief pitchers the way managers and coaches do, not based on overall cumulative stats. What have you done for me lately? Your most recent outings. Forget about what happened a month ago. Okay? I want to know what you did in your most recent appearances, because that doesn't give me a better idea of what I can expect from you when I put you out there. And that's exactly what Matt Sink does, what Bo Showalter does. You run down the list of all the guys. And I mean, if you're following the Mets, perfect example. This is one of the reasons why Met fans have soured on Uris Familia. Okay. I mean,
Right.
You get and have why Yankee fans, scream and yell when Aroldis Chapman walks the bases loaded. The whole point is that, always remember, if you throw 1 inning and give up 1 run, your ERA is 9.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's what I do too. I like to keep individual games and, recent performance. I think that that's the most relevant thing about a player, specifically a pitcher. But overall, when you look at the numbers, Ledbetter's had more bad outings than he's had good outings. So has Kyle Johnson. So have, most of the freshmen. So has Jack Carr. Well, actually, you know what? Jack Carr is another guy who it's going to be a big couple of weeks for. He's a sophomore now. He was a 2-way. Now he's only pitching. And he's had a couple good outings this year. But he's had a couple of detrimental outings this year. And, it's again, how are you going to end this season? Are you going to end this season in Matt Sank's good graces? Are you going to earn yourself a spot in, the primary bullpen rotation next year? Are you going to be one of the first arms out of the bullpen next year? Or are you going to have to be competing in season for more innings? And that's what these next couple of weeks are going to have to represent for the guys like Kyle Johnson, Andrew Ledbetter, and Jack Carr and Devin Sharkey.
This week especially, because obviously I believe obviously continuing with conference play, they still got about 3 weeks or so left until that wraps up.
Right.
And obviously facing where is it here? UMBC. But Wednesday it's another non-conference matchup. Future conference matchup will be Stony Brook and Hofstra. And that's gonna be an interesting one because unlike a lot of the other sports, this is the first time these two teams are facing off since 2010.
Yeah, 12 years. And Hofstra won that game 12-10. So Catalanato and Sank have not coached against each other, I don't think.
That's really interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Because 2010, okay, you're going back to that time. I mean, Travis Jankowski wasn't even the starting lineup that back then, but he was on the team.
He was in high school, right? Didn't he only play 2 years?
2010, he was
freshman.
He was a freshman.
Okay.
He scored a run that game with Pat Cantwell.
Yeah, he was on the roster. But, I mean, I have an old scorecard that I unearthed from 2010 in the America East tournament, and, he didn't start. So he didn't become a starter until the following year. But the whole point remains,
again, what did I say, right? Freshmen don't play in baseball.
They went to an NCAA regional and actually won a game.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Back in 2004, it was 2-out. 2008, it was 2-out. 2010, they beat NC State and got knocked out twice by Coastal Carolina. And 2 years later, of course, Omaha. But the whole point there was that 2010 team, the core of it, was the 2012 team.
Yeah, this is just names reading it off right here. Max Tissenbaum led the team 3 hits, 4 runs scored.
Right. He liked my tweet earlier, by the way. Right. If I can take a victory lap.
Big fan of the show.
You can't beat what happened last year. Okay. No. I forget who it was who got hit by a pitch, and the umpire didn't see it, so he had to go back and swing again. And I said, this reminds me of Max Tissenbaum in the Super Regional 2012 against LSU, and a minute later, he's sitting right next to me. Yep. Yeah, I put him on the air, and he said, just tell us the whole story, because what happened was he got called back, and he came up with a big RBI single. It was part of the Game 2 win, so he came up with a big hit there. So, it just brought back memories, and there is the guy who created the memory sitting right next to me. It was great.
Exactly. Yeah, and this game's big too, just the Hofstra game, just because, as we said, it's going to be a preview for what's to come the next few seasons. These are two teams that go on from not facing each other to they're going to play at least 3 times against each other, maybe more because it's a local.
Yeah,
and also absolutely. Maybe more because of the tournament.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. And if you're Stony Brook, because of how bad you've done in non-conference games this year, granted, these last couple ones have been just auditions, right? That's pretty much it. They've been live auditions for the freshmen and for the relievers who haven't been pitching much, but. I think if you're Stony Brook, you want to win this Wednesday game against Hofstra. I really do. They're 5-15 in non-conference games.
5-17.
They haven't played 5-17. No, it's
5-15.
Yeah, 5. Yeah, Ken. God, no, I'm kidding. But again, they're 5-15 in non-conference games. They haven't played Hofstra in 12 years. They're going to be conference rivals next year. They're already Long Island rivals. Just win this game. Come on, for all time's sake. Just
obviously, and it goes with every sport too. For transition, lacrosse is common here. Where these are two teams where they know each other. The ins and outs because they played alongside each other. Already played against each other. In local tournaments, summer league, in high school. So these are two teams where even though they may not be familiar with each other. In terms of the familiarity playing Stony Brook versus Hofstra year in, year out. These are still a lot of players on both of these teams that are homegrown local talents. I say for the lacrosse games as well. These are the all-star games for Long Island College right here. Mm-hmm. It's Stony Brook and Hofstra because this showcases the best talent from Long Island for both teams.
Yeah, absolutely right. Guys like Brian Morrell, the right fielder for Hofstra, Stony Brook doesn't have nearly as many Long Island guys playing as you think. They've got a lot of guys from Long Island on the roster, but in the starting lineup, the only guy from Long Island is Matt Brown Airing. So, right? I think so. Yeah, because Brown Airing's from Connecticut. Derek Allen's from Connecticut, but he hasn't really been starting. Where's Matt Maselli from?
Well, he's Jersey. A lot of Jersey talent.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of Jerseys. I mean, Giordano and Luthner are Jersey
I'd
boys.
still argue some familiarity there in that sense because surely they crossed, definitely in summer leagues, I think, summer ball.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. I'm sure that they have. I don't know. I haven't, believe it or not, I haven't spoken to as many baseball players as I make it seem. I don't get to know them that well, but
be fun games for sure. They're airing on WSB that Hustle Stony Brook game, so tune into that one. Especially a lot more baseball, softball going on with lacrosse on break. The women waiting for their seed. The men, they're done for the season. So,
But one thing I gotta remind everybody, and I talk about this all the time whenever a pitch is fouled off at Joe Nathan Field, University Field. I believe that yes, the UMass doubleheader. I think the baseball and softball teams will be playing simultaneously. And you got to watch out for foul balls over on University Field because they do travel a bit. Now, the foul balls from University Field don't necessarily reach Joe Nathan Field, but the other way around does happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all the time. And you know what?
Heads up.
Final point. This is the biggest digression in radio history. I'm going to say one thing about the softball team again. And then, okay. One more piece to look out for. She's not going to play the rest of the year, okay? Because she shattered her jaw. That's usually a season-ending injury. But outfielder Juliana Sanzone, who's in her second year now, batted over 300 as a freshman, slugged over 450. They're going to be getting her back next year too. So I've been saying every time we watch the softball team play, it's really just a sign of things to come for next year. Well, guess what? They've got other girls who are also a sign of things to come for next year. That we don't even
concerned about who's going to pitch.
Oh yeah, that's all we need to figure out. Is we know we've got Ashton. Maybe Shelby surprises us. I mean, Matt, you remember when we were interviewing Riley Craig over the summer, and she broke the news to us that very day Dawn Bodrug got her fifth year of eligibility approved. So I guess. Shelby's going to get some time to decide. Maybe she decides to pleasantly surprise us as well. But
yeah, and for Stony Brook too, just softball wise, 30-14 overall. If they were in the CAA this year, that would be among the top of the standings, and their biggest competition will be an 11-4 Delaware team in conference play. So definitely not too much concern there outside the pitching. But one team that's always dominated in conference play is women's lacrosse, and they finished their America East. They're probably done facing America East teams for the time being in, following that game against UAlbany where they win both their games played, especially a tough one against number 24 Yale.
Yeah. They, I think the women's lacrosse team here at Stony Brook is one of only 3 teams to have beaten a ranked team this year. It might be only 2. I know women's basketball beat a couple of power conference teams, but were they ranked?
Yeah. I think one was number 24. I remember that.
Okay. All right. So women's basketball, and then obviously football, who, at one point it looked like football wasn't going to win a conference game. And then their first conference win was against a ranked Delaware. But
that's right.
Because that's why you play the game.
And then State, by the way, for women's basketball. Sorry.
Yeah, so no, I was just trying to remember all the teams that have beaten somebody ranked this year. Obviously, women's lacrosse might have 3 wins against ranked teams this year, right?
4 and 2 in ranked contests.
Right, and then women's basketball got a couple, or they got 1 definitely. Yes. And then football got 1 definitely.
Yeah, so it's good signs. It's a good sign for Sean Helbron as well. And obviously, with women's lacrosse, you said going out with their heads high. The numbers they're unbelievable. America East wise, especially, just some of the fun stats that are out there is the Seawolves averaged a 12.8 goal scoring margin against the America East opposition this season. They won every game. The most an opponent could score is 8 goals in America East play, and obviously 60 straight wins in conference play, longest active one in NCAA today.
Well, it's unfortunate they won't be able to continue it.
Yeah.
Well,
Happy
get a load of this. Okay. You were talking about the rankings, right? And the ACC tournament is going on right now. The Big Ten, they're looking to crown a champion. Well, first of all, they're going to send a lot of people on at-large bids no matter what, because one automatic qualifier, half your league is qualified for the NCAA. That's not going to happen. But just taking a look here, Northwestern, who of course beat Stony Brook earlier, lost to Maryland in the tournament. Okay, they will play Rutgers. Now, of course, I don't know if that's a tournament game or a regular season game. Regardless, they did lose to Maryland. So they were ranked 5th ahead of Stony Brook. So they may go down. They also went down from 2nd last week. Maryland will probably move up. Syracuse, they're in the ACC, of course. They lost to BC and Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia, big upset.
Yeah.
And Virginia's advanced to the ACC.
Okay, so they were ranked 3rd. Okay, BC and North Carolina are scheduled to meet in the ACC final this coming weekend. So, opportunity, Stony Brook might just move up.
Yeah, potentially. You don't want to get the hopes up, because obviously what happened a couple weeks ago where, it felt like this is a top 5 team and they don't get it. But yeah, to your point, it definitely feels that way. That Stony Brook could end up finishing regular season as a top 5 team. And I think if they do, it strengthens their case for. It could strengthen their case for getting one of those top 8 seeds, which means they'll be able to host until the quarterfinals, I believe, or the round of 8. So that'd be pretty big for the Seawolves. But as you said, these upsets too. That's the thing. It's Stony Brook's almost a shoe-in, but as you said, Matt, all these at-large bids, too many good teams, need an at-large bid. It probably devalue where Stony Brook sits just because. And they can't play in the conference tournament.
Well, the big problem and the establishment, who I've always railed against in that particular sport, they will always say, well, if we let you in, we have to tell somebody else, deny it to somebody else. Well, if you're right now the 6th or you move into the top 5, who's better? Who's more deserving? One of the top 2 teams is going to get the automatic qualifier for the ACC, so that's not an issue. Syracuse just lost 2 in a row. Okay, right now, the only 2 teams that have beaten Stony Brook in women's lacrosse are Syracuse and Northwestern, and both of them are ranked ahead of them, but Northwestern just lost 2. So why can't Stony Brook be above those 2? Maryland's going to move up because Maryland's probably going to win the Big Ten, but there you are. Who's better?
Right. Well, look, I think if Ken keeps talking about how this team could wind up a top 5 team, I think they'll just wind up losing spots. So I don't know. Right? Yeah, Ken's
for all I know, they probably looked at that Yale game and saw, Stony Brook's losing in the 3rd quarter, so that means they got to go down. Well,
thank God the lacrosse gods didn't hear you guys last week when you were talking about how Albany might be a trap game. So,
that was Greg. That to me that one was tough.
Yeah, deflect blame.
Okay.
Yeah, Greg's not here.
that's okay. Look, I am sure that Joe Spolina was thinking the same thing, and of course his team proved otherwise. The team in the locker room was probably saying, "We're gonna stomp on them." You gotta be kidding me.
I would say it really didn't take too long in yesterday's game where they won 16-5 for them to just fly out the gates and dominate. They scored the first 5 straight goals that forced a timeout.
But I should also mention that
in the top
last week's top 25, the last 3 schools, Arizona State, Yale, and Hopkins, all beaten by Stony Brook.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay.
4 ranked wins this season.
Though those are 3 ranked teams going down. Just those 2. Those 3. Add Princeton at 12, lost to Stony Brook.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And let's see. And Florida at 9 also. So that's what, 5?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
How do you beat 5 ranked teams and not make the NCAA?
Right,
I
and
mean,
that's
even if
the
you
funny
lose
thing.
in the conference tournament, how do you beat 5 ranked teams and not make the NCAA?
The funny thing too is, Stony Brook, they're entering the postseason hot, and for JMU, who also they can't compete in the CAA tournament, are also on a winning streak. They won 10 straight, so they would have been. I think they were also the regular season champs. So those are two teams right there. It's where if they're not in the NCAA tournament,
Yeah, JMU's at 11 this week and could move up.
Exactly. Yeah, those are two teams where not only it's just them not being in the tournament, but if they don't have high seeds, like top 15, JMU, they're close, as I said, to being a top 10 team, I think. And with some of these big losses, they could potentially slide in there at 10. And, with those two teams, not being able to compete for a conference title that they both likely would have won, they may get hurt a little bit in seeding, but to me, those are two teams that are definitely top 12, top 15.
I mean, I hate it. Well, first of all, it starts with college football as far as the rankings are concerned. And it used to be, before there was a playoff, that the national champion was decided by a poll. Okay. Now, in most cases, there was a consensus that when one team would run the table and win a major bowl game and all that other wonderful stuff, usually, okay, fine, understand perfectly. But if somebody from the Pac-10 then the Pac-10 or the Big Ten comes out as number one, or the SEC and one of the power conferences, there was one year, which is what really started all this controversy, way back in 1984, where Brigham Young won it all. Okay, the polls. Okay, they had great quarterback and everything like that, but. So, I mean, that's nice that Brigham Young had a shot at it, but, they didn't play anybody. Of course, that's where the controversy really started as far as establishing a playoff was concerned, because they realized that a lot of these teams never faced each other, so there was never any real competition like there is in basketball. And, of course, the popularity of the basketball tournament had a lot to do with it as well, because there you see teams play head-to-head. You see your Cinderellas, and you see, unlikely teams go deep in the tournament. So why can't that happen in football? And still, people still say that the FBS playoff is still not big enough. The FCS is a lot better. Okay, but that's
let me be an amateur and just ask you guys, what is the current blueprint for the NCAA? Are they Stony Brook gets an automatic bid because they're ranked? The women's team, I'm talking.
No, at large.
No, they don't get an automatic bid only if they win the tournament. But they can't participate in the tournament, therefore it's at large.
Yeah, so I mean, so then what happens here? Educate me, because I follow
the selection committee will determine whether or not Stony Brook makes the tournament.
Right.
And this is the same selection committee that gave them a 5 seed when they were number 1 all year.
Right. Yeah. So
this is why there's some trepidation here. We think they should be a shoo-in. They have the credentials for it. Like I said, they beat 5 ranked teams, all ranked below them. The only teams that beat them are ranked above them.
Yeah.
So
right, and one of them was a heartbreaker. It was a 1.
Yeah, Syracuse was a 1-goal game.
Right.
Northwestern, I think Northwestern had that game end to end, but Syracuse, the Seawolves still play them close.
Right.
So there you go. What more could they possibly do to earn an at-large bid?
Yeah.
They ran the table in their conference despite not being able to participate in the tournament. Nobody came close. Okay, Albany is going to end up hosting the tournament. They're going to the second seed. They have only 1 loss, but that 1 loss was 16-5 against Stony Brook.
Yeah, yeah. And it's reasons like this, like that actually made me mad. What you just said. This is not a TV show, so you guys can't see that. That just made me mad. But it just it's yet another reason why everybody at Stony Brook should just fire off nasty emails to everyone who works at the America East, like every day for the rest of their lives. Like, because think about that. Think about how hard these young women, these athletes, the coaches, Joe Spallina. Think about how hard all of them are being screwed over, even if they get the selection.
Which they
Just
probably will.
think about that. All the work they've put in their whole lives, especially the seniors who are not coming back next year, right? All the work they've put in this year to be ranked as the 6th best team in the nation, at one point 5th best team in the nation, and they might be done.
Yeah, and same thing goes for JMU too. Is 2 points under them, but yeah,
it reeks of spite.
Yeah,
and yeah. Well, again, like you said, when Ethan Tam published that tweet from Statesman saying that the schools voted unanimously to ban Stony Brook from the tournament, it's like they basically kicked us out.
Yeah,
we over at Stony Brook, we're saying, okay, yeah, you kicked us out because we're too good for you.
Exactly. And then, and by the way, earlier when I took my victory lap about Tiss liking my tweet, you know what the tweet was? So the America East Today posted a picture of the women celebrating, and it was a promotional tweet. They were promoting their lacrosse conference. And Tiss he quote tweeted them and said, "Isn't like something along the lines of, isn't it crazy how you'll profit off of, or you'll try to benefit off of the Stony Brook athletes, but not allow them to compete for your championship."
Something on 1980.
So then I just retweeted him like, "Hey, attaboy, speak to him, Tiss." Like, so that's.
But no, it's true.
Hypocrisy.
And
totally
come
agree.
Friday,
yeah,
there's gonna be a list out of all America East first team, America East second team. You're gonna see about at least 5 to 10 names there who are Stony Brook Seawolves. On those lists, and probably player of the year is going to be Ellie Macera. I'd be shocked.
She might go All-American.
Exactly.
And
they won't give the coaching award to Joe Spallina anymore. He won it too many times, 5 times in a row, I think.
Right.
But
he's getting that thanks treatment.
What if Ellie Macera wins the Torrington?
Which he's still in the top 25 for, yeah.
Yeah.
To me, that's the thing. To me, it feels with just all of those factors, I think they're going to be in the tournament. But to me, my bigger concern is the seeding. And same thing goes for JMU. Because, are you going to take away, because of their potential opportunity to win the conference title, that being taken away from them, and also strength of schedule, because these two teams are 18th and 20th in strength of schedule, is that going to be much of a factor to where you don't see them as top 10 teams? Because to me, that's wrong, especially with the number of ranked teams, both these squads beat this season. Stony Brook, as you said, beating 4 or 5 of the best 25 teams in the nation. To me, it doesn't make sense. You do that, and the best they're at is like 18 or something like that.
Yeah, the numbers don't add up, and we've gotten screwed before. The women, I mean, as you just said, they were top ranked in the country almost the whole year at one point, and they get a 5 seed. There's been a lot of middle fingers pointed at us. There's been a lot of cheeks turned away from us, and
it's tough too. Just starting to interrupt, but just this Stony Brook team, they really are phenomenal.
They're must watch.
Exactly.
I wish I knew more about lacrosse, really, because they are. I've been to a couple of lacrosse games.
Right. They're not covering them. So.
Just as a fan, yeah, right. They bring this intensity that intimidates me, and I'm on their side, and they're crazy good. And back to Matt mentioning the tweet from Ethan, I saw the press release that the America East released, for lack of a better term, and they cited a constitutional stipulation of theirs that it is pretty much in the best interest of the conference to disqualify teams from postseason contention if their dedication now and for the future is not to the America East. They did the same thing to Boston back in 2012-13, and they're doing it to us now. But how silly is that when, meanwhile, Hartford announces last year, we're not staying. We're not even going to be D1 anymore.
Oh, it is ridiculous.
But they're allowed to. But they're
Well,
gonna
it's
make
funny
the
too,
postseason in a couple sports.
Just with the word that dedication, they're a D1 team right now, and in a lot of the programs, God bless them, they're playing like a D3 team already.
Right.
And go back to volleyball. Go back to volleyball a few seasons ago, and women's basketball as well, where they couldn't buy a win. And ironically enough, women's basketball team a couple seasons ago, they got one win, and it was against Stony Brook, but they literally finished the season 1-31.
Right,
and that was before they announced they were going to D3.
Yeah.
But
the
Stony Brook, the
point is they're not. They literally said, "Yeah, we're so not dedicated to you guys. We're not even going to play in the same division level as you."
Exactly.
But they're allowed to make the postseason. But Stony Brook, who has they had a ranked women's lacrosse team. Our women's basketball team would have been ranked if we weren't in the America East.
Receiving votes.
Yeah.
They were receiving votes.
Right. Men's basketball is a track team. They're good. They deserve to make the postseason. Didn't they finish it? Weren't they the 3 seed by the end of the year? With 5 defections, they were the 3 seed. Yeah. Baseball, of course, baseball was at least going to finish second because they do that. They run the America East. And I mean, come on, men's lacrosse 10 years in a row.
Yeah, and just focusing too, just softball, lacrosse.
And softball, right.
Yeah, but men's lacrosse, we haven't even talked about them yet. They would have been the 2 seed.
Exactly, yeah.
They're finishing season 14-2 right now. They're using lacrosse reference here. Statistically, they have a top 15 offense in terms of just how efficient they are. Defensively, they have the second best defense in the NCAA behind UNC, just best everything. Mm-hmm. But the funny thing to me too is they have this lacrosse ELO rating, and so ELO use it in chess to determine who the best players are. So they're ranked second behind UNC. Yeah. So this is a team to where a lot of the numbers point to them being maybe a top 10 team, but they're even better than that if you really dive deep into it because of so many great players on the attack, like Hart, like Rafferty, Pulis, Macera, obviously. Defensively, you got Dylan leading the way. Sabella, who in the midfield, she's really opened up offensively as well. And in net, too, that two-headed monster with Campbell and Halsall. We don't know which one's going to be started, assuming they make the full season, because we saw Campbell in net for all 16 minutes last game, but they've been splitting time in most of these contests beforehand.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think last week they were ahead of UNC. They were number 1 in the nation. Yeah. So, again, just to the America East, you're losers. Sad. Nobody likes you.
It's just disappointing.
I mean, nobody likes you because unless you're Vermont, you get a 15 or a 16 seed in the men's basketball tournament.
Right. Well, look, the America East pretty much now, instead of having consistency, from Stony Brook in every single sport, it's going to be scattered. UMBC has a couple of good – right now they've got a good softball team. In years past, they've had a good basketball team. Obviously, they pulled off that unreal 16 seed versus 1 seed upset, right? That was them against
That was them,
Yep.
Over Virginia. So, Virginia won the national championship next year.
They should have a couple of they should have some pride as an athletic program, although, again, I say that a little tongue-in-cheek, but still, UMBC, I guess maybe you could hang your hat on them, and Binghamton.
Yeah, it's going to be all over the place, man. Yeah,
I don't know.
We're just talking about lacrosse too, right? And go to the men's side now, and they lost this week, but just overall, America East is dead last in out of conference play on the men's side, 14-36 this season. Yeah. And if you take Stony Brook away from that, that's 5 wins right there, gone. So you're in the single digits. The Stony Brook has over a third of the entire conferences out of conference wins, and it's just on the men's side, even more so on the women's side. So it's just a big loss there, especially for how good this team has been. Although we saw in the Vermont game, they got off to a good start, but the same issues that they'll plague them that second half. And Vermont, really from second quarter on, but that third quarter, they got outscored 10-2, and it was ugly. And to me, I had issues with how that game ended, in the sense that you see a team grow, and this men's lacrosse team did grow, but just how bad they've been in third quarters this entire season, it was disappointing. I think that those issues were still persistent. Yeah.
But we should still be proud of them. We should. They had a really good year. The men's lacrosse team, 5-1 in conference. That's something to write home about. And of course, the only losses to the undefeated 6-0 in conference Vermont.
4-2 actually. Remember, they lost to Albany too.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I'm the worst. Okay, fire me.
Well,
Fire me.
and look, yeah, everybody wanted to forget that game.
Yeah, that's
That
right.
was,
And lacrosse teams, whatever.
but
Right.
okay, taking a look
But
at the American East standings, because Stony Brook, of course, finishing, they would have been the 2 seed easily. But, of course, the tournament would have been at Vermont, which would have been not impossible for us to go to, but difficult. But the other 3 teams that did qualify, UMBC, Binghamton, and Albany, all had identical 3-3 conference records. So,
Right.
very mediocre.
Yeah.
Vermont is a very, very good lacrosse team. I was very impressed.
Vermont
with what
is
they
a
were
good
able to do.
athletic school. They're one of the few teams who I think can replace Stony Brook.
Well,
They, men's
replace. I mean,
basketball.
they were the biggest obstacle to Stony Brook throughout. There are 2 schools that were consistently in Stony Brook's way in most sports: Vermont and Albany.
You think Albany was? I mean, I guess women's
Less
basketball.
of a factor later, but
Yeah, okay,
remember
that's fair enough.
the 3 straight years. I mean, I'm looking at Will Brown's biography, for example. Okay, 13, 14, and 15. Okay, Albany won 3 straight tournaments, and then they did in 06 and 07. 05, 06, and 06, 07. So 5 total. But, I believe in that period of time, first of all, until he left last year, so Albany joined the conference the same year Stony Brook did, and they had the one coach all the way through.
Right.
Very interesting there. But the Albany started to go in the tank in 19 and 20. Okay, because they were finished in 10-6 in the conference, and they did in 17-18, 22 and 10 overall, and didn't get any postseason bids. But they also went 12 and 20 and 14 and 18 in the ensuing years, and in 2021 they went 7 and 9. Okay, in the abbreviated season there, which is one of the reasons why Brown and and Albany mutually decided to part company. So the Albany program was in a bit of a decline. So that's why they decided to move on. But Albany, I mean, during that period of time, 13, 14, 15, oh my God, remember what was happening with Stony Brook at the time under Steve Peichel. They were consistently finishing among the top. Okay, at 14-15, Albany won both the regular season and the tournament. Okay, fine. They were 15-1 conference, understandable. But, of course, Vermont would get in their way. Vermont, I believe, overall, despite the fact they don't have baseball, could be the class of the conference based maybe only on men's basketball.
Yeah.
Who would you rather see go to the CAA with us, Vermont or Albany? I would rather see Vermont. For real. I mean, they don't have a baseball team, so it's tough. But I
the
really
natural
would rather.
rivalry. And speaking of Colonial Athletic Association baseball, okay, we are in for a rude awakening. Because we're going to have to deal with, first of all, you're going to have to deal with a bunch of teams that have top quality baseball facilities. Joe Nathan Field's a great field, but not a great baseball facility because it has no press box, nothing around it.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to upgrade that just to be in competition. I mean, they're going to be recruiting against schools like Virginia Commonwealth, UNC, Virginia Commonwealth is no longer in the conference, but UNC Wilmington, who has 6 titles, and they get into the NCAA on at-large bids. Okay? So you're going up against that. I mean, you're like I said, James Madison's another one. First of all, you're going to be playing most of our tournaments down south because I believe they do it on a rotating basis. And it will be in Elon, North Carolina this year. So you're going from also a New England-centered conference to a Southeastern-centered conference, where the geographic center is probably somewhere around Richmond, Virginia. So you're going to be doing a lot of traveling, and we're going to be missing them a lot on the road. But Yeah, I mean, I think Matt Senk is up to it. I think maybe he's itching to start recruiting against these schools, but he's also going to be screaming, please upgrade my facility so I can recruit against these schools. Because if you go to the College of Charleston's park over at Patriots Point and you take a look at that facility, which is basically a minor league ballpark, and then you go to Joe Nathan Field, how? How are you going to do it? I mean, Farmingdale has a better baseball facility in Stony Brook.
That's
it
right.
Had lights.
But
we went to, in 2008, when Stony Brook finished first in the conference, we held the conference tournament there because at the time the American East required lights.
Mm-hmm.
And if they had lights, ironically enough, they had lights at Joe Nathan Field. We might have been able to get that tournament in last year because we would have been able to squeeze games in at night.
Right. Well, look, let me say this, okay? Rude awakening is one way to put it, but I don't think it's going to be a rude awakening in the win-loss record. I mean, I don't exactly think that Stony Brook's going to walk in and win the CAA year one. But,
definitely not.
but Matt Sank is going to have – Matt Sank and Jim Martin, by the way, who was a very good assistant coach. I mean, a lot of the defensive positioning and, the offensive approaches that they bring to the game are based off of his scouting reports, okay? So if you think that they're good, give Jim Martin some credit too. Anyway, the coaching staff there, led by Matt Sank, they're going to have those boys ready to go. It doesn't matter how nice looking they're.
Oh, by the way, Northeastern, who won last year, you know who coaches them? Tom Glavin's brother.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. I did know that at one point.
Mike Glavin. He's Tom Glavin's younger brother. Actually, played briefly for the Mets. I had a cup of coffee with the Mets in 2003. But, Tom Glavin's brother is the coach of Northeastern. And Northeastern's in the conference. Used to be the American East way back when. And they upgraded to CAA a few years. Well, actually, it's got to be 15 years ago at least.
Yeah, I think 2006 was the year. But anyways, all I want to say is I think Matt Sank is going to have his boys ready to go. I think a win for them. Obviously, they personally will want to be in first place, but I think a win for them would probably be middle of the pack next year. I think if they're middle of the pack,
I think they could be a top 16 for sure. And
I do too.
6 is all you need to make the playoffs.
Exactly. And, that those hitters who, by the way, all of them, the quote unquote sexy 6, and let's extend it to 7 because Ryan Michelli deserves to be in that category now. Okay. They all have at least one more year of eligibility left, assuming Evan Giordano wants to return. So they're going to be back next year. And then the rest of the guys outside of Giordano have 2 or more years left of eligibility. So, we're going to have some bats for the CAA. We're going to have some bats ready. And the arms are automatically going to be better next year simply because they have more experience.
I was going to say, I don't see them being worse this year. No, it's not to say they're god-awful, but...
No, they haven't been god-awful. They've had some bad innings. They've had some bad games.
Many bad innings.
But several bad innings. Yeah.
More than several.
Right. But they're definitely going to get better. And, of course, they're going to be playing in their first summer leagues this year, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, keep that in mind for the individual players, that they're all going to be playing in summer leagues this year for the first time in their lives. So they're going to be playing D1 competition all year round, getting, their first year of D1 competition out of the way. They're going to be experienced by next year. Oh, and also a good sign. I was just going for a walk around the baseball field last Wednesday before the game. I had a class, so I couldn't go to the game. But no, it wasn't last Wednesday because they were in Fairfield. But whenever they were home last, oh no, I know what it was. While Hofstra's bus was late for the softball game, I went to go take a walk around the baseball field, and the baseball team was practicing.
Right. Yeah.
And I saw freshman pitcher JT Rabb throwing a bullpen, light bullpen. He wasn't throwing hard. He was throwing at 50% or whatever, but he was throwing. The JT Rabb is recovering from Tommy John surgery, and he's the most talented freshman pitcher they've got. So that's a really good sign for them. Maybe he starts throwing later this year, but he's definitely going to be a player to watch for when they move to the CAA.
But the competition will be tough, which, like I said, true. I think that, well, we now know. We've talked about it ad nauseum ever since the announcement was made. Stony Brook has outgrown the America East.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Right.
yeah, I
Doesn't
think
stop them from highlighting us for their own personal
But
benefit.
I mean, the upgrade competition. Well, the Inside Lacrosse, again, I mentioned this a few weeks back, put out an article about Stony Brook upgrading, and they said, particularly with women's lacrosse, it will improve their seedings coming out of that league if they get to the NCAA.
Strength schedule
100%.
automatically goes up. As I said, they're at a 20 right now, which is impressive considering how bad the
But I
Northeast
was
is.
just talking about UNC Wilmington, and Wilmington, while they've won their share of championships in the CAA, they've also gotten in the NCAA on at-large bids several times in baseball. So yeah, we're eating that up.
But I was gonna say for Stony Brook, as long as they're ranked, their CAA is gonna be in that program is gonna be a 2 or maybe even 3, but probably two team bid. You know, you'll get an at large and the automatic qualifier probably year in year out.